So basically, this is probably going to be the last thing I say about the 7 rules of Hellcat ownership that I set when I was making that video about the Tesla Model S versus the Dodge Challenger Hellcat. And I feel I really have to do this because obviously the video went viral, and when it did, a lot of the things that I said were taken like way out of context, and I really just have to set the record straight on a couple of things. So basically, I'm going to go to my video that I made, and I hope everybody loves this picture that I made of Moses looking to the sky and delivering the commandments for the Dodge SRT Hellcat owners. So yeah, I really have to do this. I'm gonna turn the volume down.
I'm making a very simple video.
All right, let me just turn
that. If you are an owner of a Dodge Challenger or Dodge Charger Hellcat,
I'm sitting in front of a 60-inch television. So, okay, so basically, yeah, I started out by saying, you know, we got some rules for these owners because somebody described me as exasperated. Yeah, they're right. I was exasperated. I was so frustrated seeing all these videos of people driving this car and horribly losing. I mean, just horribly losing, like not trying 17-second quarter miles with that green Challenger Hellcat versus that Tesla. That really, really, really bothered me. So anyway, rule number 1 pretty much speaks for itself, and I believe I created a meme. Always use the red key. Do not use the black key. You always use the red key. I can't say that enough. Now, the beautiful thing about SRT is these guys are really great at making technology. They make it so that if it doesn't matter what car key that you get in with, even if you have both the black and the red key, the car takes precedent when it senses the red key, and the red key takes ownership of the car, regardless of the fact that the black key is in your pocket too. When you drive this car away from a dealership, they give you all 3 keys together on a hook ring. And the simple fact is, if you have the red key and you're afraid of driving with so much power, because the simple fact of the matter is, this car is way too powerful for city use. If you live out in Texas or something, you're fine. So some people would be scared to drive with that kind of power, and this computer that comes in the Uconnect system allows you to turn down the power. And that's absolutely brilliant. SRT has put together probably the most comprehensive engine computer equipment in a standard civilian car that you'd ever see. You don't see stuff like this in any other car. Now, the Tesla Model S can update its flat screen, and it can make its user interface look different and this, that, and other. But because of the fact that that screen is so big, and because of the fact that a lot of their drivers wear glasses, blah, 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 they have to make it so that the buttons are very large and very easy to read, even when you're moving at speed. Now, the Uconnect system, of all the infotainment systems I've ever used, the Uconnect system is the absolute best. This thing gives you instantaneous access to just about every component worth using in the car at any given time. The shift light system, since most of you are probably never going to drive this car, a lot of you don't like American cars, whatever. The shift light system allows you to set up your rev limiter so that if you're launching yourself off a light, you have a choice between pushing the launch control button or the shift light button. Now, if you use launch control, it's just like my Jeep. Launch control allows you to change the revolutions per minute that your engine's doing. So it'll allow you to say, okay, hey, I want to launch at 3,000 RPM, or I want to launch higher or lower, whatever. It depends how you need to do it. If you're really good at car racing, you'll know exactly what you need to set your limiter to in order to ensure a perfect hookup and a perfect launch. The default setting that the car comes with is excellent already, but the problem is, as you drive this car and as you use your tires up and you lose traction, obviously you're going to lose the friction that you need to race, you know, off a light. Now, a lot of people have been making fun and, oh yeah, well, if the Hellcat requires all these rules, then it's not as easy to drive as a P85D. Excuse me, you idiots. This car is rear-wheel drive, and a whole lot of power going to the rear wheels is not going to give you a successful hookup. You're racing a car against an all-wheel drive car. All-wheel drive, goddammit. All-wheel drive. If you race against an all-wheel drive car, that car is not going to sit and spin. It's going to have a major advantage in the beginning of the race. Now, if they'd stop racing these high-performance cars in quarter-mile races and start racing them more in mile races, and I like to give compliments to Drag Times Baku for doing this. If you do it in a mile race, the car that is better designed for racing is going to have an advantage. But the shorter you make these races, the more the rear-wheel drive car is going to lose. If you do a short race like an eighth mile or a quarter mile, the rear-wheel drive car is going to lose. All-wheel drive performance cars now, like the Veyron Super Sport and the Porsche Panamera Turbo S, all of these cars that are all-wheel drive and have all that power are gonna launch right off the line, and there's nothing you can do about it. If I put 2,000 horsepower in a rear-wheel drive car, that thing is gonna sit and it's gonna burn its tires to dust, and it's gonna sit still. You guys gotta think, man. You know, so the problem is, I'm arguing with a bunch of people who've never owned a real powerful car. Most of you driving Priuses. Most of you are really riding bikes and skateboards to work or to school, your little jobs, your little work-study jobs. I'm arguing with kids. Meanwhile, I'm driving Chrysler 300 SRTs. I'm on my second one, driving Jeep SRTs. Rule number 4, do not race anything with all-wheel drive. You mean to tell me you people don't understand what I'm talking about when I say don't race anything with all-wheel drive? These cars don't spin. They just go. That's the reason why that Veyron Super Sport is the fastest, most powerful street-legal production car in the world. That thing hits 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. You can't mess with something like that. And the Nissan GTR, as much as I hate Japanese cars, for the most part, the Nissan GTR, I have to give it props. It's all-wheel drive, and it started everybody on that track of putting all-wheel drive, automatic, computerized torque vectoring cars. And the spoiler thing, if you're racing a $500,000 car or a $2.8 million car, what do you think is going to happen if this thing has one of those spoilers? This thing is designed to be fast. Now, this is where I got to stop the video right here. This is where I got to stop the video. The Tesla Model S P85D. And this is where I get really, really, really upset with certain people, especially these comments that I'm reading online. Oh my God, these comments are just ridiculous. Okay, first of all, this right here, I was in traffic, and I was in traffic, and I was driving next to a P85. You're starting to see a lot of these things here in New York. There are a lot of them because a lot of states don't allow Tesla to sell its cars freely, and I think that's wrong. First of all, I'm a Tesla share owner. I only bought 200 shares. I never expected those shares to go past $200 like they did. And when they started going up higher, I thought it was going to reach 300. The problem with Tesla is that Tesla's cars are way too expensive for the average person to buy. Now, I thought we'd hit $300 a share, and right now I'm debating whether or not to sell my stock. If I hold on to it and it goes up, I'm going to kick myself. If I hold on and go down, I'm going to still kick myself. I'm going to kick myself harder, because if I were to sell like right now, I'd make like $40,000 or something like that before you factor in capital gains taxes. So anyway, this car is $100,000. With the navigation system and the moonroof, this car is $100,000, and that's before you factor in nicer wheels. Because the problem is, all of these cars look alike. There's only one Model S, really. It's a body kit designed on top of a battery and a power inverter that gives you more power to that rear motor. And this is just the P85. This is a $100,000 car. So here's my question. For all of you people criticizing me, and all of you people, saying that the Challenger Hellcat sucks compared to the Tesla and everything, for all you people criticizing, well, let me ask you, which one's easier to afford? A car that costs $60,000 to $70,000 and uses gas and oil over 6 years, Now, you figure in each year, depending upon how much you drive, now some people drive ridiculous distances. Like I have, coworkers, and I've got employees who drive 60 miles a day because they're coming from parts of Long Island that are pretty far out. One of my employees lives in Port Jefferson. This guy really drives 65 miles into the city, and then he drives 65 miles out. So anyway, most of you can't afford this car. And let's be perfectly honest. The vast majority of you cannot afford this car. You can't afford it. This thing's $100,000. The P85D is extremely fast because it's an electric vehicle, number one, and electric vehicles have instantaneous torque at 0 RPM. On top of that, because it's not rear-wheel drive, it doesn't sit and spin. It's all-wheel drive, and it takes right off. And let's just be perfectly honest. Most of you, the vast majority of you, the bottom, 98%, you guys can't afford a $135,000 car. So let's just stop right there, and let's just talk about that for a second. You ain't got that kind of money. You ain't got $135,000. Even if you had it, you ain't got it to spend on this car right here. This car right here is selling to new money, people who make millions of dollars a year, or even people who make, $250 plus, and they get that lease program. $135,000 is basically a $2,200 a month payment. I need somebody to seriously explain to me, at what point does buying a $100,000 to $135,000 car allow you to save any amount of money? It doesn't. If you want a big car and you're not racing people all the time and you need space for a lot of people, you could get a Chevy Impala. A Chevy Impala has more rear leg space than my Chrysler 300 does, and it costs roughly the same thing when you factor in like the price of options like moonroof, navigation system, this, that, and other. When you factor in those things, a regular car that's less than $50,000 or $55,000 over, let's say, a 6-year finance period. A lot of people are keeping cars longer because most people don't have the money. But let's say a 6-year finance period. Which one's going to cost you more? And this is simple math. A car that's $135,000 the moment you buy it, or a car that's $50,000. Guess what? The difference is huge. You could spend all that extra money on gas, oil changes, etc., and you could be doing that for like 6 years and you'd still come out way ahead. What you're buying here is an image. This thing is no different than buying an Audi RS7 instead of an Audi A7 or an Audi S7. You're spending more money to basically have more bragging rights, because the problem is there's only one Model S. There's not different models yet. The Model X isn't here yet. The Model 3 isn't here yet. A lot of these rich people would buy the Model 3. If it was here right now and it had a decent enough range, they'd buy it right now. And of course, the other problem with these electric vehicles is the range anxiety. A lot of people don't have a garage. A lot of people don't have a charger in their garage or enough space for a charging system in the garage. A lot of people have office spaces that don't have charging equipment. Now, you think I hate Tesla. I'm telling you again, I don't hate Tesla. The problem is these cars are too expensive for the mass market, and that makes it slightly less profitable in my eyes. I love the car. I wish they'd, do something about that interior, because I feel it's really not comfortable. I wish they'd elongate the car a little bit more, which may happen on the Chinese market since Chinese people buy bigger cars. But the problem is it's not big enough. It needs to be bigger. It needs to be more spacious. That's all I'm saying there. And it also needs to be cheaper. The Model 3 has not happened yet. So we have no idea what an quote-unquote affordable electric vehicle is going to look like, because they haven't built it yet. A $70,000 car is not affordable. You can't afford it. Some of you can, but most of you can't. So let's just be real. Let's just be real. Most of you can't afford to drive around a $55,000 Chrysler 300. And the reason why I bring up that car more is because my Jeep is $70,000. So that would put it in the same category as the base Model S. So let's talk about a $55,000 car that gets 10 miles to a gallon, because I'm basically getting like 9.8 in the winter and about 10.1 in city traffic in the summer. Most of you can't afford that. And you're buying premium fuel. Leave the expensive cars to people like me. Just leave it to us. That's all I need you to do. Leave it to us. We'll handle it for you, okay? You just watch. You just watch us make these videos about racing cars, okay? You just sit back and relax. BMW i8, I'm waiting for BMW to get one so I can test drive it. I'm not interested in BMW at all. If I wanted one, I would have already got one. The P85D, beautiful car. It's a monster, but it's $135,000. You can't afford it. And then there's the Porsche 918. You know damn well you can't afford that. Let's be honest. I can't afford that thing. No, and first of all, even if I could, it's too goddamn small. When are these car companies like Lamborghini and them, when are they going to build cars for guys who are 6'6"? Huh? I'm close to 6'6", and you think about it. If Lamborghini and Bugatti were making cars for really, really tall guys who like with big shoulders and this, that, and other, think about all the football players. Think about all the basketball players who would love to take a couple $1 million and love to drive around in one of these things. They gotta, I mean, listen, it's cool that it's a sports car and everything, but there's a simple reason why SRT is doing so well. A very simple reason. There's nobody else giving you a V8 with this much power in it. Because my generation, I'm 30-something years old. My generation grew up knowing that the V8 gives you great power at low RPM, and it has a great engine note. The P85 is silent. The P85D is dead silent, except for the road noise and the tire noise. I want to hear my engine. Why do you think people are willing to spend $2,000 and $3,000 to put these exhaust systems on their car? Why do you think? It's because they want the shit to be loud. They don't want it to be silent. Their idea of a quote-unquote luxury car is putting a lot of power and a lot of noise in the car, okay? So that's just what it is. Now, different strokes for different folks. You buy whatever you want. I'm just saying the reason why SRT is doing so well and everybody wants into SRT is because they seen that Jeep kicking people's asses on the track. On top of that, they see the Dodge Charger, which is a monster. That thing looks beautiful. It's got a mouth. Originally, a lot of people say, oh, that thing looks like big mouth Billy Bass. But guess what? That Charger looks terrifying. And that's why people like it. It's a big car, 4 doors, looks terrifying. Everybody wants one of those Chargers. Everybody who's not, you know, who doesn't want to buy an Acura RLX or Acura TL because for whatever reason they think Acura is awesome or something. Yeah, well, when I blow by you in traffic and you see the taillights on one of my cars, you'll know just how awesome that Acura is. Because I feel bad for the people who try to race me. They think that SH super handling all-wheel drive in their Acuras, they think that's going to do something against an SRT. And they pull right up to me on a light. And as soon as they pull that, I put the car right in sport mode. I smoke those tires up in their face. It looks like they're moving backwards in reverse. I love it. I don't know why people threaten me in traffic trying to race. I don't know why they do it. They don't even know what I got under the hood. If I had a supercharger right now, it would be twice as awesome. And it would look like they were going backwards in traffic. I don't know why people do that. You know, but, and I don't endorse street racing. I'm just saying, you know, light to light, you're getting smoked. That's all. Okay, last thing. A lot of people, and this is the end. Because I know a lot of, oh yeah, well, why do you waste so much time talking? Well, if I don't waste time talking, then you'll try to take everything I say out of context. In this video, I said that the F-16 and a lot of these jet airplanes take off at like 400 miles an hour. What I should have said was exactly what they said in the Road and Track video where the Challenger Hellcat raced the F-16. At the end of the runway, the F-16 is doing 550 miles per hour. That is a quote from the video. I didn't feel like explaining myself at that time because I assumed that most of you would have understood what I was saying. Ultimately, that's the problem with sound bites and the media. They always take you out of context. Somebody never understands what you're saying. So if I talk more, that means that now Now you have more to go on. Now you understand that I'm drawing this entire thing out for you because some of you just can't read between the lines. And I understand that, you know, ever since John F. Kennedy basically dissolved mental institutions, that, you know, mental retardation and autism have taken off and skyrocketed. Listen, I understand that. But let me just say it like nice and loud so you understand. By the end of the runway, the F-16 is doing 550 miles per hour. So that means that it's moving so ridiculously fast that there's absolutely no point in racing it with a car that tops out at 200 miles per hour. 200 miles per hour versus 550 plus miles per hour, okay? I think everybody should understand what I'm talking about, but it's just, I'm reading these comments and I'm like, Jesus Christ. It's like, I really got to make a video to explain this. So, basically, at this point, now I feel that I've fully explained myself. This video, 7 Commandments for DODGE SRT Hellcat, when I made this video, I had no idea that this video was going viral. If I had had an idea it was going viral, I would have probably made 10 commandments. Rule number 8. Never, ever let your wife, girlfriend, sister, mother, whatever, significant other, anybody who's a female drive the red key. Just don't do it. Listen, I understand it sounds sexist, but the simple fact of the matter is these are big, heavy cars, and this thing puts out a hell of a lot of torque. If it's difficult for somebody like me to control, and I bench press 315 pounds easily, this is definitely something that you need to be careful with. This is not a simple all-wheel drive Jeep. This is not a simple all-wheel drive car. This is not a simple rear-wheel drive car. This thing will kill you the moment you don't respect it. I don't let my girlfriends drive certain cars. Like, she can handle the Jeep SRT. That's no problem. But my 300, I feel safe for driving that in the snow and the ice. That's the reason why that's my car of choice. If you care about the women in your life, don't let them use that red key, because unless you go out to like a private track or something, you don't want them getting killed out on that track. I'm telling you, these cars are extremely powerful. And if you slip up, it's going to be disaster. So just don't do it, please. Rule number 9. Do not race old guys. These people are retirees. They're collecting Social Security checks. And since they couldn't afford these cars when they were younger, now they've got nothing to do but sit back and pour money into their projects, quote unquote. These guys, some of them have actually worked for these car companies, and they understand the Hellcat, and they understand anything you're driving better than you understand it. If you see one of these guys pull up to you and you can hear their engine when your windows are closed and your music is up, please don't race these guys, because you never know if somebody's around with a camera and they're going to record this and you're going to end up on YouTube and I'm going to get embarrassed. And I just don't need that. I'm sick and tired of the losing. If you see first of all, you're not supposed to be street racing. Second of all, if you see like one of these old guys pull up to you, they've already scoped out your car, so they know what you got. Most likely they're sitting in some kind of old Chevy Snail Blazer, or at least you think it's slow, and they've got like drag radials on their car. Please, please, please. There have been so many car accidents with these people driving these crappy Corvettes, and these things are so light, and they slam them into trees, and these old guys crashing cars into lakes, Bugatti Veyron Super. I mean, please, please, do not race these old guys. I'm telling you, you're scrounging up your money and you have to choose between making your rent payments, your cable payments, and feeding your kids. These old guys are sitting back, collecting their capital gains, collecting their Social Security. They've got nothing to do but sit at home and work on cars. They read the magazines. They're looking at the Hellcat and laughing. They're like, hey, they got 707 horsepower. Well, guess what? I'm running about 2,050. They're running methanol and ethanol and spray injectors and NOS and all that. These guys got nothing more to do except work on their cars while they're waiting to die. And then, on a side note, these are the same guys who, when you go to the car shows, they pull up with a trunk full of awards. And they're pulling out all these awards out of their trunk.
And you see awards going back to 1962 for racing people and winning. If you race an old guy, you think he's slow, but I'm telling you, the proliferation of Cialis and Viagra has put these old people out of the homes and back on the streets. These guys are not messing around. They've got stuff under their hood that would scare the hell out of you. And I'm telling you, just don't do it to yourself. Please, please, please. We don't need any more videos of SRTs losing because the person who's driving them just didn't know what they were up against. I'm not telling you, because some people like to take this out of context. I'm not telling you that you can't race these people. I'm just saying, if you're not used to racing, please, please, just don't pick on people in traffic, especially if the guy's old, because these guys, they've got nothing to do but build their cars. I'm telling you, you're setting yourself up for, at the best case scenario, a loss. At the worst case scenario, a car accident. Please, please, please don't race these old guys. In a slightly related issue, I noticed that there's a website called redneckrealitycheck.com, and they featured my 7 rules for Hellcat Challenger owners. And I also kind of think it's really funny that a lot of people who don't know anything about me online call me a redneck. Some people call me a Guido because I have a bit of a New York accent, but I always find that funny. I wasn't exactly sure what my final rule would be, but I'm pretty sure that this one covers most of the problems that I've had up until now. SRT needs all-wheel drive. I personally love driving my 300 more than I like driving the Jeep. I like the way the car looks. I like the way it's low to the ground. I like the way the car handles. Unfortunately, when ice and snow hit, you've got no choice but to switch over to a 4-wheel drive vehicle. The Jeep is an extreme performer simply because it's a powerful engine hooked up to all-wheel drive. The Jeep tuned is way faster than a Nissan GTR stock. Now, a Nissan GTR tuned is way faster than a Jeep stock, like say one of those AMS Alpha Omegas or whatever. And when you look into the world of high-performance supercars, what you're noticing is everything's all-wheel drive, computer-controlled torque vectoring, and a shitload of power, as I call it. We need all-wheel drive. The Hellcat with an all-wheel drive unit would be incredible. As it is, it's a great muscle car, but the problem is this car without all-wheel drive will sit and spin. And as everybody who's a professional racer knows, spinning ain't winning. We need all-wheel drive. I've talked to Ralph Giles on Twitter, and I've asked him about whether or not we'd ever see an all-wheel drive anything. This would be a better time than ever to consider an all-wheel drive 6.4-liter Hemi and a 6.2-liter supercharged Hemi. This would be a better time than ever. I would love to be able to build a car like the one that I saw on Facebook where a guy had a Hellcat hood installed into his 300. He doesn't have the supercharger, which I told him he really needs to get. I had planned it the other way. I wanted to do a supercharger first and then put the exterior model on. And if I see a hood like this, I definitely buy it. But we need all-wheel drive. Without all-wheel drive, yeah, the cars are pretty powerful. They handle pretty well. But if you really want to be able to take down just about anybody from in a quarter mile, if we had a really good all-wheel drive unit with everything else that the Hellcat has, an all-wheel drive unit would allow us to destroy most of the other cars off the light right away. And that's the thing that SRT is missing. They make big, spacious cars that attract big, tall guys like me, football players, Shaq, blah, blah, blah. But what we really need more than anything is a car that can get us through snow, ice, and then still show up to a drag racing strip, take down somebody, and then leave the drag racing strip, get back on the snow and ice, and drive home without having to worry about crashing. That's what we need more than anything. SRT needs all-wheel drive. I just crossed 8 million views. My goal is 10 million views and 10,000 subscribers. Eventually, I'm going to get it. I'm not sure what cars I want to drive and review next, but this right here has been probably one of the bigger videos that I've done, and I'm really proud of the progress that I'm making so far. I'm making over $800 a month on YouTube. This month, over $1,000. I mean, YouTube is awesome. And anybody who has any niches or skills whatsoever needs to get into it. So that's it for this video. I'm sure somebody's going to say, oh, this video is too long. I had to turn it off in the first 5 minutes. I couldn't take it no more. Whatever. But I'm celebrating over here. I'm going to pop the champagne. And you can get back in your Prius. You could drive to work. I'm off right now. I'm on vacation. So, have a great time at work, dudes.